got Femi Fembo. Yeah.
Great.
Femi,
Good morning.
great to have you.
Thank you, Rufai.
And your workload is top notch.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know what? You know how I feel with compliments? I could just faint. I mean, it's too much. Good morning. Good morning.
I echo the exact same
You're
sentiment.
hard, you're a smart worker.
Thank
you're a
you.
great one, you dig in.
Oh,
She does it gracefully.
He does
Makes
it,
it
you do
effortless.
it so greatly.
I'll
and
just
you
dackle
put in
here.
the
I don't
work.
want to do that. Good morning, Rotus. How are you guys doing?
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, today, April 15th, 2025, marks 2 years since the beginning of this iteration of the Sudanese civil war, which has triggered the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Now, the British government is bringing together foreign ministers from nearly 20 countries and organizations in an attempt to establish a group that can drive the warring factions in Sudan closer towards peace. The conference at Lancaster House in London seeks to address a conflict that has persistently been left at the bottom of the global list of diplomatic priorities. Meanwhile, pressure is mounting on the United Arab Emirates over its presence at the conference after a leaked confidential UN report raised fresh concerns over the UAE's role in this devastating conflict. Now, the UAE has been accused of secretly supplying weapons to Sudanese paramilitaries via neighboring Chad, a charge it has denied vehemently. But this internal UN report detected multiple flights from the United Arab Emirates in which transport planes made apparently deliberate attempts to avoid detection as they flew into bases in Chad, where arms smuggling across the border into Sudan. That is according to The Guardian in the United Kingdom. They say that they have seen those reports. We haven't. Now, 25 years after Robert Mugabe's government began confiscating land, Zimbabwe has now started to make compensation payments to white former farm owners. Now, according to Zimbabwe's Ministry of Finance, the government has already paid $3.1 million to 378 farms, to which they represent the first batch of recipients. It's the first payout under a 2020 agreement to pay $3.5 billion in compensation. Now, the remainder of the $311 million due to this group of farmers will be paid in US dollar-denominated treasury bonds with 2 to 10-year maturities and an interest rate of 2%. That is much lower than the current yield on a 2-year US treasury bond of about 3.8%. For context, Mugabe's government seized more than 4,000 mostly white-owned farms, often violently, from about the year 2000 in order to redistribute it to black people in the country, and what it claims was restitution for the dispossession of British colonial rule. However, Mugabe and his cronies took nearly 40% of the 14 million hectares for themselves. Now, agricultural production, which had accounted for 40% of exports, plunged and the economy collapsed, with hyperinflation reaching a staggering 500 billion% in 2008. Now, Zimbabwe cannot borrow from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, as it has been in arrears since 2000 and 2001, respectively. Government debt was $21 billion late last year, of which about half was arrears and penalties. Now, these compensation payments to the displaced farmers are one of the requirements of international lenders to start a debt restructuring process with Zimbabwe, including a new IMF program. And finally, Oprah Winfrey's best friend, CBS presenter Gayle King, and 5 other women have safely returned to Earth aboard Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket. Now, Bezos' fiancée, Lauren Sanchez, Grammy Award-winning singer Katy Perry, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, civil rights activist Amanda Wynn, and film producer Kerry-Ann Flynn were also on board the rocket, which lifted off from its West Texas launch site just after 8:30 a.m. local time. The capsule then returned to Earth with a parachute-assisted soft landing, while the rocket booster also landed back in Texas. Now, cheering could be heard from inside the capsule as the recovery crew went to collect them. Just Bezos opened the capsule door to welcome back Lauren Sanchez, who was the first to disembark. You can see him greeting his partner there. History there. Are they getting married in June? That's what we're hearing.
His fiance took the risk of being on that flight. This is the American innovation that we celebrate. This is what Elon Musk used to be, right? What Bezos is doing now. Bezos has the Washington Post. He's got Blue Origin, and he is just in the background funding American innovation. This is what we should be talking about rather than tariffs. It was historic. It was great to see. I think Katy Perry even sang when they actually got into somewhere into orbit or so. Pretty incredible stuff, and it was good to see that. And Blue Origin, they're not quite where SpaceX is right now, but Bezos is really steadfast in that. Look at them kissing the ground because they knew it was
Gail King was thanking Jesus as soon as she touched ground because it could have gone in a completely different direction. You can see Oprah crying as she was going up in the air.
Look, Sudan, unfortunately, it seems the conflict has taken a back seat to the war in Ukraine and all that's been going on. But everybody remembers how this whole thing started, right? You go back to when Bashir was kicked out 2019, and then the power struggle between the two individuals, the the RPF or so, what's his name, Delgado, and then Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. The two of them essentially have a big power struggle, and that's why this entire nation has the largest humanitarian crisis on planet Earth. I don't know. 2 years on, we hope that you see some progress being made, but I fear that it's being superseded by other conflicts around the world.
Very quickly on Blue Origin. See, I realize that, as black people, we are the same everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're American or Nigerian because I watched as Gail King got on the flight. Her face, she just looked terrified. Then I saw Oprah praying. When she came down, she kissed the ground. Oprah was praying. I just said, but it was so beautiful to behold. I mean, I made my daughter watch the video because I just said, look, this is a black woman who's gone into space. You're a young black woman. You can one day go into space as well. Anything is possible. So I love the representation. It was very intentional, so beautiful to behold. So I really, really love that. There's Oprah crying again. But now to some serious business.
Yes.
As Africans, I don't know when we will learn the value of our resources, both on the ground as land and under the ground as resources. Quickly to Sudan. At the backdrop of this entire fight is gold. And the proxy battles that are happening because various external powers, whether it be Russia or whether it be the allegations of the United States, are all fighting for the gold. This gold from Sudan is said to be what is even fueling and keeping the Ukraine-Russia war going because it is being taken out illegally and is being taken direct on a flight to, wherever you name it, whether to Russia and so forth for processing. So very concerning. Now, you called my number and I'm going to answer because the next issue concerning resources is Zimbabwe. I'm going to try my best to summarize. I'm a little bit hurt at the narrative painted here.
It's
because
a very Western propaganda narrative.
Yes, I think it's a sad day that we're paying to compensate people who came to snatch our land with guns in their hands and killed our people. It's an unfortunate day. I understand that this is all being done to try and create a better relationship between Zimbabwe and the West. We need access to lines of credit and so forth. But this is a very sad day because in 1980, when Zimbabwe got independence, we signed the Lancaster Agreement. The Lancaster Agreement said that the white minority farmers would sell their land to the black Zimbabwean majority. Willing seller, willing buyer agreement. Guess what? There was never a willing seller. So we can't say the land was confiscated, it was this, it was that, because there was no willings. They're the first people who refused to stick to that agreement. Right. So what did we do? We said that, okay, fine, well, if you're not gonna go peacefully, we're gonna have to do this process forcefully like we did when we fought our war for independence. Anyway, can't go into the long history. My summary, I think, is as Africans, I hope we can learn to understand the value of our land as a resource and our minerals as a resource as well, because the rest of the world seems to get it, and we're still trailing behind.
Thing? Just a reminder, the Land Use Act in Nigeria is under the purview of the governors. Just want to throw that out since we're talking land. The Land Use Act in Nigeria is under the purview of the governors. Rufai, please, take it away.
You see, the reason why Africa will never learn is because Africa has not emancipated itself from the same mindset that has kept it down all this while. That's why Africa will never learn. When the Oxford dropout called Cecil Rhodes came and started taking all of those lands, he was also aided by some African parties. And It is that subservience that has continued till dates. Exactly what is happening in Sudan. The same Russians that were with Hameti, getting the gold, shipping the gold out, have now gone to Al-Bernan now because they want a military base around there. And Al-Bernan has yielded to them. So in the space of this war, Russia has done two sides. They've played both cards because Al-Bernan seems to be pounding Hameti, the rapid response squad now. And in all of this, they are going to talk peace in the same country that has taken sides, UAE, that there are allegations of them transferring weapons through Chad and putting the weapons on the battlefront because of their own selfish gains. To blame in all of this is the same Sudanese, the same people that go against each other. Exactly what is happening with Menagagwa. The same people that ought to use the resource for Zimbabwe, they've not used it. They have left in a position where they have to go back to the West and beg, and they have to take these terms. Exactly what is happening in South Sudan. After John Garang fought for the emancipation of South Sudan, he died when he was coming back from the Arusha agreement. And guess what happened? The two beneficiaries, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, are so concerned about themselves.
There we go.
And that's why South Sudan does not know peace today. So across Africa, it is a group and collection of problems we have of people that do not even understand the essence of keeping our resource within and doing well for the people. So we will always go back to the West to beg.
There we go. Well, thank you all for your great submissions. Let's move on to the newspaper review now. And as ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And this morning, This Day leads with comments from President Tinubu saying, essentially, enough is enough. Plateau State Governor is who he's directing those comments to, Caleb Mutfwang. And he says that he has to summon the will to deal with the continued killings in the state. This is as gunmen kill 54 people, injure several others, and raze 30 houses in the latest attack. Now, both the Daily Independent and the Daily Trust, they both lead with the horrific insecurity coming out of Plateau State. Very, very difficult times there. Then the Advocate this week, it does look at the deteriorating democracy in Rivers State. The write-up from Onikepo Braithwaite this week is called Between Law and Circumstance. And she lists the controversial issues in the state, such as clearly one of the biggest one, this sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibas, reportedly going beyond his powers by appointing 23 administrators for local government councils. It's a very interesting write-up as always. Now, the New Telegraph and the Daily Sun, they both also hone in on River State and the vow from PDP governors to stand with Fubara until the end. Now, the Punch, it leads with PDP governors seemingly distancing themselves from coalition talks as former VP Atiku Abubakar's bloc essentially defies those governors. And on the front of the Guardian, Gencos are threatening to shut down over a 4 trillion naira debt, and that's as Band A customers resume their protests. Your protest is also noted, Rotas. We also have a few special editions in today's newspaper review. Let's first take a look at this from the Harvard Crimson. It's the university student newspaper. And the US federal government says it's freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard University since the institution said it will not comply with the Trump administration's demands to limit activism on the campus. Trump's administration called for a requirement that Harvard institute what it calls merit-based admissions and hiring policies, as well as conducting an audit of the student body, faculty, and leadership on their views about diversity. The demands also call for a ban on face masks, which appeared to target pro-Palestinian protesters. Now, Harvard President Alan Garber said the demands violated the university's First Amendment rights and exceeds the statutory limits of the government's authority. Now, back in 2023, the presidents of top US universities were questioned in a very tense congressional hearing in which they were accused of failing to protect Jewish students following the outbreak of this Israel-Hamas war 2 months earlier. it had started 2 months earlier than that congressional hearing. Now, Claudine Gay, if you remember, who was then president of Harvard, the first black woman president, I might add, she later apologized after telling the hearing that calls for the killing of Jews were abhorrent, but it would depend on the context whether such comments would constitute a violation of Harvard's code of conduct. That comment led to her to resign from the post a month later. So it is interesting that her replacement, a white man, could say, no, we're not going to comply, and he doesn't lose his job. But very, very interesting.
Good point.
Finally, The Independent is reporting on the breakthrough by researchers at King's College London, both my universities just representing me very well today, saying that they've now been able to grow human teeth in a lab for the first time. Now, the breakthrough could lead to patients regrowing lost teeth in the future, offering an alternative to fillings or dental implants. Now, Dr. Anna Angelova Volponi, Director of Regenerative Dentistry at King's College London, led the team to develop a material that mimics the environment needed for tooth development, allowing cells to send signals and begin forming a new tooth. Now, just like animals like elephants and sharks, which have the ability to grow new teeth, humans only have one set from adulthood, but that could all soon change with this development. Those are your papers from around the world.
Adefemi, fantastic work as always.
Appreciate
really
it.
wish
Thanks
you
so
could
much.
hop on there, but thanks.
Right.
So especially with the teeth.
Teeth, right?
Yeah, and the Gencos and the 4 trillion in debts.
All right.